Well, it's Charles again, and today I'm sitting outside. It's cold, it's windy, it's beautiful sunny, and I've got seagulls in the ocean and all of that type of wonderful stuff going on. And I wanted to talk a bit about today on love, of course, because that seems to be one of the major driving factors in everybody's life, is to feel included, to feel loved, and to feel like they mattered to somebody. And I think that's the biggest thing that we all face. I don't care if it's in a job. You want to know that you're doing a good job and that you matter to the company to some degree. Other companies I've worked for in the past, if there was no recognition, or they never told you that you were actually contributing anything, or they just beat you consistently, bottom line, bottom line, bottom line, get moving, get going. And they never really showed you any sort of care, compassion, or love. Typically, I didn't last very long in those jobs, and the morale in those companies was usually very low. One of the interesting things that was coming to me as I was walking today in this beautiful cold weather was looking at how love affects us. And we've had these individual people that we've fallen in love with over time and all of those types of things. And I find that once that love disappears, we figure that there's something wrong. And we can figure that there's something wrong with us. That may or may not be the case, but when you look at humanity and two of the strongest forces in the world, one is love, and the other is fear. You could say hate as well. But love can be repellent because of fear, or love is typically something you are drawn towards. When you look at fear, fear is typically classified as a negative emotion, and it repels people and pushes them away. So whether or not you got the closure you needed out of the relationship or not, but you feel that sort of longing to be back with that person, because of that person at the bottom of it was how you felt about yourself. It boils down to the feelings that they helped you feel. It sounds really sort of cynical, selfish, and one-sided, but at the end of the day, love is about what you're feeling. If you look at unconditional love, you would love somebody no matter what they did. Unfortunately, with a lot of what we do in love, and different people that I've talked to, typically men, it becomes very conditional. And I understand that, because once they get hurting, they can get really bitter about things. That's not to say that it doesn't happen in the other direction as well. My experience just talking to friends that have gone through breakups and stuff is all of a sudden they want different things back from the woman that left them. They want the rings back. They want the money back that they spent on them. If you treat me this way, I'm going to do this for you. If I feel this way, I'm going to do this for you. The other way to look at it is, well, if I give her everything she needs or they need, they're going to give me what I need in return. This is seldom the case. This comes from personal experience as well. So it's not just me talking out of my ass. A lot of the time, we do something for somebody in expectation, whether we realize it or not. We're expecting something in return. Whether that's a feeling, respect, love, any other number of things. It's kind of very conditional. It's like, think of parenting for a second. So you see these little kids running around and they're screaming and they're yelling, and whatever guardian or parents looking at them will go, oh, okay, well, if little Johnny or Susie, if you behave, I will give you an ice cream. So okay, little Johnny or Susie starts being better, so that guardians or parents, whatever you want to call them, don't mesh up and they don't get all crazy and everything, and it makes your job easier to get the grocery shopping done or whatever it is. So all of a sudden, this is a conditional behavior. So you're going to behave and I'm going to give you this. It's no different than in how we look at love. I'm going to give you all of these things because it's within my power to do so, but in return I want you to love me, I want you to respect me, I want you to make me feel good about myself, and that the things that I've given you are not a waste. So when you look at that, it's very, very conditional. It's not very, people go, oh, I unconditionally love this person. But when you look at it, is it really? And I'm not saying this to be a dick, but to make you aware of the possibility that your motives for what we do, for whatever reasons, might not always be altruistic. It might not be these wonderful things. There might be a hidden agenda underneath, and sometimes we're not even aware of it. We just do it. And not to make you wrong or right, it's just something that I've noticed. And you know, sometimes the best thing, though most people don't think about it at the time, is that the breakup is actually a good thing. When you look at the movies, and what we're typically shown in the movies, in any type of action hero sequence or anything else like that, is typically the heroes come out, there's an event or battle, and they get their asses kicked. They suffer some type of loss. So the next thing that they do is they start training, strategizing, planning, all of that type of stuff. They get better, they get stronger, and then they go back and there's another battle or event and they suffer a little bit of casualty, but eventually they're victorious. This is a common script throughout Hollywood. We fall for it every time. You see it in movies, you see it in TV, all kinds of things. Typically somebody takes a shit kicking, they go back, they learn some more stuff, they come back, they're up to the task, and they're victorious. What I would do, now that I'm getting better judgment and being able to look at things through the research that I'm doing, is love is sort of similar. So if you look at what's gone on, okay, you've been with this person for whatever period of time, whatever has happened, so your first battle's happened, and you've split and parted ways. That doesn't mean this person was perfect for you. It doesn't mean that they were their soulmate or anything else like that. And we all typically look at the best case scenario and we forget all their flaws and everything else like that. But if we took it at the way that all of a sudden we got our asses kicked, what are we going to do now? Well, if the heroes in the movie sat down and just left it and go, oh, you know what, we got our asses kicked, we're not going to go back up against these people because we're just going to get them kicked again, well, that would kind of be the end of the movie. So think of it this way. You've got your ass kicked, or your heart kicked, whatever you want to call it, and now we're at the point where, okay, now we go back. It's now time to start rebuilding. Rebuilding the people we were, or becoming new, better people. You know, whether that's learning more about relationships, learning more about the psychology of relationships, how we respond in relationships, looking at how we are, digging into us. Yes, I know this is a very hard thing to do, digging in and finding flaw with yourself once you're hurting. Oh yeah, that's great. That's like a paper cut and then using lemon juice or hand sanitizer to clean it while it's still hurting. I get it. But the thing is, there's no better time to do it. You're already hurting. So let's shorten that hurting period by getting it all out at once and digging into ourselves, figuring this stuff out. We're looking at it, we can address it, we're right in the thick of it. So whether we have great judgment or no judgment at all, at least we can slow down, take a look at it, figure out what's working, what's not working, things we want to change about ourselves. One of the exercises that I did that was really helpful was I listed all the things that I wanted in a relationship. The next thing that I did was list all the attributes in that relationship that I still needed to cultivate and develop within myself. So all of a sudden that identifies a bunch of needs, and I've got them written out on paper, and I can see what those are. I can now look at each one of those items and sort of prioritize them and figure out where I need to go with these things. So I can look at it and go, you know what, for whatever sort of attribute that I want to cultivate, how do I do that? So I can start learning and studying and figuring things out, talking to therapists or whatever, and actually putting together how I want to be in that relationship so that that relationship does not lack the attributes that I would like in it. It sounds simple, but when you're going through a bunch of stuff, sometimes even the simple isn't simple. I understand that. There's so much living in the past that we do, focusing on a relationship that's over. All we want to do is be able to feel good. We look at that relationship as providing us with what was good. The funny thing is if you think back, or don't even think back, think about a time where you were just holding somebody's hand and how good you felt. It doesn't even have to be that particular partner. It could be any partner. And we have that capacity within us. So rather than taking this breakup thing as a really bad thing, if we move towards something that's positive, or we're moving away from something that we're scared of. So turning that love and looking inwards, you could use it two ways. You could develop that momentum in two ways, or that sort of motivation. You could look at it from a fear factor point of view and look at it and go, okay, if I don't develop these qualities, and they've probably told you different things, and maybe they haven't, of what you should be more like or what you should do more of, well, are those things you want to do? You might want to do those for that person, but are they for another person as well? So you might want to look at those and go, okay, well, if I never, to get this person back, I'm going to have to develop those attributes. Well, that comes from a fear point of view, and that's fine, as long as you're into the motivation and you're starting to do it. Sooner or later, after the pain sort of goes away, you'll find that you will start being motivated by other factors. Right now, if you're in the thick of it, the factor is that you're hurting. Later on, you'll start to see the momentum you're building, and hopefully it becomes something that's self-driving rather than something that is driven by fear. You could also look at it this way. If you love that person, or you want another loving relationship that's deeper and more connected than the last one you had, well, now you're being pulled toward that goal, and it's likely to be sustained because of those positive feelings, not necessarily the negative fear-driven ones. Either way, I look at it this way. If you're motivated, whatever that motivation is, whether it's fear-driven or love-driven, at least you're starting. Sitting down, waiting and waiting and waiting for them to come back, something that may or may not ever happen. If you look at a lot of the videos online, you can see that some people go, oh, you know, these exes are eventually going to come back. You look at some of them and they say, well, within about 6 months you'll hear from your ex, and some people hear 5 years out. Well, are you going to sit around and wait for 6 months to 5 years or longer? Please don't. It's too long of a time to sit waiting and hoping for something. And if you're not developing, when they come back and see you, are you even going to be ready for that task? Yes, I know saying that's a fear-based motivation, but it was a good motivator for myself in the beginning. So if I want this person back, I need to become more of the person they fell in love with. What were those attributes that you had then? So take a look at it. I know you're hurting. It's hard go right now. But start putting together a plan of action. Let's face it, Hollywood action heroes do. And there's actually a really interesting book that sort of took on that type of attribute. Was they gamified And a lot of people play video games. And what they did was they gamified. So you basically develop sort of an alter ego where you basically became the person that you would be in a game. You know, they had the strength of this, and they had these different attributes. Those are all things that we can cultivate and change within ourselves. I hope this helps. Be safe, be brave, be yourself. This is Charles. I'll talk to you next time.